Hello, everybody. My name is John Bentz. I'm a partner at Valuation Research Corporation, and I'm here to present J.B. Pritzker with the ACG Chicago Lifetime Achievement Award. This award is bestowed upon those who are not only Chicago's most important business people, but those who have actually changed the world through their leadership and by example. There's a long list of distinguished recipients. And now I'm going to give you a short bio on J.B. Pritzker. J.B. is an entrepreneur, an investor, and a philanthropist. And those that know him, he is a wonderfully super nice guy. He is co-founder and managing partner of the Pritzker Group, a private investment firm with offices in Chicago and Los Angeles. The Pritzker Group acquires middle-market companies that manufacture products, services, and healthcare companies. They also have a venture capital arm and an asset management arm. JB is a leading proponent of entrepreneurship with a strong technology sector focus in the Midwest. He was appointed the founding chairman of Chicago Next, the Mayor's Council on Innovation and Technology, and he also founded 1871, Chicago's digital startup center. JB earned an AB in political science from Duke University and a JD from Northwestern University School of Law. JB resides in the greatest city in America, Chicago, with his wife, MK, and his 2 children. Please welcome me and joining to the stage, J.B. Pritzker. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're going to go into a little Q&A with JB and ask him some delving questions. But before we do that, I want to recognize a couple of things. The first off is JB's team and the Pritzker Group is sitting in front here on table 6. Would you guys please stand up and have a round of applause? And also an unashamed plug, if anyone who is traveling from out of town or in town wants to take any of the boats around Navy Pier, they own all the boats. So it's the Odyssey, the Sea Dog, Spirit. So it's a wonderful trip around Lake Michigan, and for those people that are out of town, certainly they can enjoy the scenery.
No discounts, however.
Okay, you ready? Okay, so some question and answers for JB. With your deep involvement and perspective and passion within the Chicago entrepreneurial community, what do you assess and what is your outlook for the ecosystem and the community here in Chicago?
Well, thank you. And let me just begin by saying thank you to ACG and to John and to so many people who put this amazing event together. I honestly think that a Lifetime Achievement Award means you're at the end of your career. So I'm not sure who's sending me this signal, but
it's not, JB. It's not.
All right, good. Well, I'm hoping I've got a few more years left. Look, I think Chicago is in an unusual position going forward to be the center of a particular kind of commerce. We, of course, have a terrific industrial economy here in the Midwest, and particularly around the Chicago area and in Illinois. And as of late, in the last 5 or 7 years, we've really developed a terrific digital ecosystem, too. And the convergence of those two offers us a unique opportunity to become the focal point for the next wave, I think, of new technology companies focused around upgrading the factory floor, upgrading the processes of industrial companies. Some evidence of the recognition of that is that the federal government granted Chicago recently a huge new grant to build the Digital Manufacturing and Design Institute on Goose Island, and another $250 million on top of the federal grant from private organizations to advance that. It strikes me that's an indicator of something that I think is really happening around Chicago, and you'll see it and may hear about it in the startup community in Chicago. I have seen it. the number of companies that are focused on sensors on the factory floor, on data analytics from the factory floor. These are extraordinarily important things that haven't really pervaded down into, middle market manufacturing. The big companies, let's say GE, pretty good at it. But even GE realizes we've got to take another leap forward, and they're a big investor and supporter of the DMDII. So I'm bullish on the prospects for the convergence of those two. I'd add one more thing. Also, as a result of the development of the digital technology ecosystem in Chicago, we have the opportunity to marry the medical and healthcare community, which is so huge. The economy around Chicago, the major companies around Chicago, and minor ones, startups, et cetera, in the healthcare arena are being significantly affected by digital technology. The big wave of the future is the convergence of digital and bio, frankly, in our own bodies, right? I mean, when we go to the doctor now, the way that we get diagnosed and the way that we get treated is changing. And it will advance significantly over the next 20 years as a result of nanotechnology. Remember, we've got one of the great nanotechnology centers in the world at Northwestern. We've got some of the best healthcare companies in the world here in Chicago. We've got some of the best hospitals. The Rehabilitation Institute has developed, for example, an artificial leg that is driven by brain signals. So, I mean, that's never been done before. That's an amazing thing to watch somebody who doesn't have a biological leg be able to essentially tell his leg through thought that we're now going to walk up a stair and lift, without grabbing your own leg or leaning on something, to actually have your leg lift when you think it. That's an amazing development.
That's amazing.
We're uniquely qualified, I think, in the Chicago area to be the center of that kind of development.
Awesome. And I think your 1871 idea, you were the brainchild of that. How was that kind of dovetailed into what you just kind of talked about?
So, I mean, all of you in the audience know that there's a big difference between an established, large or medium-sized, middle market company and, the basic startup. But all of those middle market companies and all those large companies started somewhere. And 1871 being focused on, digital technology-oriented startups gives us the opportunity for 1,000 flowers to bloom. Certainly not all the companies that are in a place like 1871 or any of the other incubators or accelerators that are in the Chicago area are going to succeed. Lots will fail, just like lots of businesses that get started elsewhere fail. But 1871 is designed to give startup entrepreneurs a hand up, a little bit of help. And some of that help, by the way, comes from community. And that was really the intention of 1871. The idea that you can walk down the hallway in your place of business to talk to other entrepreneurs to find out what they're doing to solve a problem, not competitive. You may be selling two different kinds of things or developing two different kinds of technology, but everybody needs to know how to market on Facebook if you're developing a new company. Everybody needs to know how to code, a certain kind of code. In Ruby on Rails, for example, might not be your specialty, but someone down the hall knows a lot more about it than you. And so being able to find that in your midst is really the purpose of 1871. The result of it, and remember, 1871 is only 3 years old. So people sometimes are like, think it's been around for decades. It's 3 years old. The measurement of 1871, I think, rationally, and its success is, how are we doing, let's say, 5 years in? Because it takes a while for startups to really get going. All these companies that we hear about that are succeeding around the Chicago area in the digital economy are, these are not, people think they're like, oh, I just heard of it. It must be, a new company. Actually, many of them got started 7 or 10 years ago. You're just hearing about them now because they've reached some critical mass. So I think, give the companies that are at 1871 the opportunity, and some of them have already succeeded. Some have been purchased by other companies, merged with other companies to create an even bigger enterprise. Some have graduated out of 1871 because they just got too big. So 5 or 7 years into the life of 1871, I think you're going to see, the fundamental economy, and technology ecosystem transformed.
For those people that have not been to 1871, you should go. It's an amazing place, and the energy that's created there is awesome. So let's focus our attention, switch a little bit to middle market M&A. What is your approach that might be different as a PE investor? What type of approach do you like to take?
So we acquire middle market companies in manufactured products and services and healthcare. And our approach is a little bit different than private equity. With great admiration for private equity, there's the challenge, and many of you in private equity firms know, the challenge of the 10-year limited partnership agreement, the 4-year or 5-year investment period, and then the harvesting period. Fundamentally, private equity acquired companies, the cycle looks about the same for most of them, which is you spend about the first 18 months after acquiring a business kind of, altering the way it's doing business in order to rev up growth or improve EBITDA. You spend, so let's call that the first 18 months. The second 18 months focus on just making that work and proving that, it's consistent. And then let's say the next 18 months, getting it ready for sale. Because ideally, a private equity firm would exit a company in year 5. So, that's a good business model and has worked for some time for private equity firms. What it leaves out is the value creation that can occur in year 3, when a private equity firm might not be willing to invest in the new factory to grow the company for the next 5 or 7 years, because the hold period isn't going to be that long. And so that's sort of a consistent theme in private equity, and it's something that I guess you'd say, we're challenging at Pritzker Group. That is to say, we're acquiring companies that we think have a consistent trajectory of growth, where we can continue to invest in the growth of the company over a much longer period of time. I read in Berkshire Hathaway's annual report somewhere that Berkshire Hathaway's time horizon is forever. And I love that expression. It's not that our time horizon is forever exactly, but we have maximum flexibility. We're not limited, because it's our own capital, we're not limited to, a 5-year hold period or a 10-year limited partnership agreement. We can hold a company for 4 or 40 years, and we can build it over the long term into something great. And that's, why we're acquiring middle market companies. We think we can turn them into billion or multi-billion-dollar companies.
So some of your targets could be family-run companies. Mm-hmm. You came from a family-run business, albeit very large. But what are some of the family dynamics that you think about as you approach potential sellers that could be in a family-run business?
So, many of you know that maybe you have a family business, or your mother, father, grandfather, grandmother created a business. It's personally meaningful to you, the legacy of that business, even if your family may have sold it at some point. The legacy of that business, the name of it, what it did, it was meaningful to somebody in your family, and it's meaningful probably to you. And so how it does in the future, even if you don't own it, who owns it, how the employees are treated, what its future trajectory is, all that just matters for reasons that have something other than, something to do with other than your own money making. So I think in whose hands a company ends up, a family-owned or an entrepreneur-built business, matters to the family or entrepreneur. So we've had a long history as a family of buying and holding and building businesses. We think, the values that you carry into those businesses and that you carry out, as an individual and as a family matter. And those, I think, are things that can matter to entrepreneurs and family business owners. So, that's something that's maybe a little bit different approach. I think going back to my point about long-term thinking, we also don't over-lever our companies. We're fairly modest leverage, I would say, on most businesses. And the result of that is that we're, let's say, not impermeable, or impervious rather, but let's just say, conservatively built, so that when you get a downturn in the economy, you're not, trying to stare down the bank. And when you have the opportunity to grow, you're not stretching to figure out how you're going to get that next thing done. You've got the opportunity to go back to the bank and say, look, we're doing a good job. We've got some room here. Would you allow us and help us build the next factory? So, it's a little bit different way of thinking. It's a little bit different parameters than a private equity firm would generally have. And it's, what we carry that's different in the marketplace.
So you mentioned economy. So now we're going to switch to a macro view. What is your current assessment? What are your thoughts on the economy, interest rates, and global demand here in the U.S. and our economic growth? It's a broad question.
I have no idea.
Okay, next question.
I couldn't tell you where we're going. The only comment I guess I can really make about that is it feels as if, I don't know, I'd love to take a poll in the room. We'd probably get a better crowdsourced answer than the one I'll give you. It feels like we've got a base under the economy that's, feels a lot more solid than it has for a while. Again, the ups and downs of, whether the Chinese are growing at 6.9% or at 7.5% are important. But in terms of just the day-to-day business, the operating of your businesses and whether people are feeling somewhat confident, I think that's out there. And it feels, it feels steady. Doesn't feel like a boom time to me. Yes, if you've owned stocks for the last 6 years, it's been a boom. But if you're operating a company, I think most companies, with the exception of some of the famous, technology companies that we could all name, most companies are succeeding, doing reasonably well. The economy's growing at, 2% roughly. Yeah. And I don't see that changing a lot. I think the Fed has been very careful, maybe too careful, some might say, but very careful. And I think our policymakers are a lot more vigilant than they ever have been, at least prior to the 08-09 crisis, to making sure that the ground is steady and not shifting underneath us. So I think that bodes well.
What are your most proudest accomplishments personally and professionally?
Well, I'm sure I'd get in trouble if I didn't say that, marrying a terrific woman is a proud accomplishment. I stalked her long enough that she gave in. And of course, I have 2 amazing kids. So, I know that's the expected answer, I guess. But it is honestly something I feel very strongly. My grandfather once said that it takes a lifetime to build a reputation, and it takes about 5 minutes to screw it up. Yeah. And I guess you could count as a reasonable achievement that I haven't yet totally screwed up our reputation. And so I'll take that as an achievement personally. I guess professionally, it's been important to me to carry. It's been important to me to carry a strong set of values into the marketplace in business. It's sometimes hard, I think, for people to feel like that's important. But I think that over a period of time, people who operate in a steady fashion, who are truthful and transparent, and who are trying to do the right things, are dealt with differently in the marketplace and better in many ways than people who don't. Look, you can always get away with something. People will get away with things, but they won't get away with them repeatedly.
Yeah.
Because others will find out. And you can't do it over a lifetime. If you're going to be, maybe one time you can hurt somebody else, screw somebody, and make out like a bandit once. But that's it. I mean, I really don't think people are, capable of, I don't think most of you would forget it if it's happened to you. And you probably would let others know about it if you knew. So I guess I'm professionally proud of the fact that I try to, have a steady set of values. If you asked any of the guys that are sitting at the Pritzker Group table, any of the folks who work for us in the hallways, what are the principles that you live by? What's the culture and set of principles of the Pritzker Group? Every single one of them could recite to you without me reminding them here today or any other time. Honesty, integrity, loyalty to each other. Those are three really important sets of principles, I think, in life and professionally. And then there's a fourth principle that they're all smiling because they know what it is, and I guess I can say it. I'm not sure. I guess we're getting recorded, so here it goes, which is we have a no asshole rule. Yeah, so it's pretty important because I think even if you can point to somebody and say that's an A player at whatever their talent is, if they aren't treating people right, that can just poison other A players and make them into B players. And so I think you can really mess up a culture.
Absolutely.
If you let somebody in that shouldn't be there. So we're careful about that. Now, I hope everybody in the audience that knows somebody who works for me isn't thinking, well, I know an asshole. Or worse, you're pointing up here and saying, but it's really important. I think that professionally, to me, really important to build a culture, and I think we've done that.
Awesome. Well, JB, thank you very much for your time, for coming here.
Thank you.
On behalf of entrepreneurs, they thank you for your passion. They thank you for your inspiration. They thank you for those people that have benefited from your investments and your capital and your insight into the business community. So on behalf of them and on behalf of ACG Chicago and the whole team at ACG Chicago, we would like to present to you the ACG Chicago 2015 Lifetime Achievement Award.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
So
You're back.
nice.
Awesome.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.